Can computers think? This is a question that people have pondered since the early days of computers. But I'll bet if you asked the average person on the street whether computers can actually think, the average person would say, no, computers can't really think. They crunch numbers, they do calculations, but they don't really think. I have a book here called The Thinking Machine. Now this was published in 1962, before I was born. Now I got this book secondhand at a used book sale at my local library. The title is The Thinking Machine by John Pfeiffer, and it was published in 1962. Now, this book was the accompanying volume of a television broadcast of a couple years earlier.
The Thinking Machine.
Hello again. With me tonight is Professor Jerome B. Wiesner, Director of the Research Laboratory of Electronics at MIT. Dr. Wiesner, what really worries me today is what's going to happen to us if machines can think. And what interests me specifically is, can they?
Well, that's a very hard question to answer. If you'd asked me that question just a few years ago, I'd have said it was very far-fetched. And today I just have to admit I don't really know. I suspect if you come back in 4 or 5 years, I'll say, sure, they really do think.
Well, if you're confused, Doctor, how do you think I feel?
So the question is, can computers think? Well, I happen to believe that they can and they do think all the time. And this is called the field of artificial intelligence. So what accounts for people's skepticism? Is it just being more familiar with computers than people used to be? Or is it a case of familiarity breeds contempt? I think it's the latter. And I'm going to explain why I think that. The editors at Wikipedia didn't seem to think that computers can think, at least not in the area of video games. In their entry on artificial intelligence in video games, the opening paragraph originally read, "In video games, artificial intelligence is used to produce the illusion of intelligence, primarily in the behavior of non-player characters, NPCs." So is that true? Is it just an illusion? Well, I don't think so. So I helped to get that entry changed, and it currently reads, "In video games, artificial intelligence is used to simulate human-like intelligent behaviors or subsets of intelligent behaviors, primarily in NPCs." So where does the original version of that Wikipedia entry leave us? I mean, if after 50 years, over 50 years of research and development in the field of artificial intelligence, you still can't say that there's any true artificial intelligence in video games. I mean, where can you say that there's any AI? After all, think about it. Video game developers have a strong incentive to incorporate artificial intelligence into their games, especially when the player is playing against the computer, because this strongly influences the quality of the gameplay. So if video games have no artificial intelligence in them, if it's all just an illusion, then we're really in big trouble. But I don't think artificial intelligence in video games is an illusion. And the reason why is from playing the video game Carmageddon. Now this was a video game released in 1999, and turns out it's an excellent video game for studying artificial intelligence. You wouldn't think so from it's kind of a madcap violent racing game, but it turns out it's really good for studying artificial intelligence in video games. And the reason why is several reasons. First of all, the game is simulating human behavior. I mean, you know, you're driving a car and the AI is controlling 5 to 15 other cars, NPC controlled cars, and so and they're driving in a very human-like fashion, and they're aggressive, they have different emotions. The game even displays their emotions during the game. So it's very good in that respect. Secondly, because it's an older game, actually the fact that the graphics are a little cruder by today's standards means that There are no fancy graphics to get in the way while you're studying this game. And another good reason for the game being such a good way to study AI and how it works and the state of the art is that it's a very simple game. You know, it has very few rules. There are just 3 win conditions: waste all of the other cars, kill all the pedestrians, or finish all the checkpoints. Those are the only 3 ways. There are missions, but aside from those, the rules are very simple. So it's a better game for studying AI than like some complex strategy game like chess, where you don't know all the rules, or you may not be expert on all the rules, and if something does happen, you don't know, well, that might have been in accordance with one of the rules that I don't even know about, because the Carmageddon has so few rules. So you don't have to worry about that. And the final reason it's such a good way of studying artificial intelligence is that it has this excellent feature in there called the manual cam. This allows you to click on any of the NPC cars and see exactly what they're doing throughout the game. What they're doing, you can be seeing what they're doing when you're on the other side of the map. You don't even normally see what they're doing, but with the manual cam, you can check it all out. I had known that the AI in this game was really good even back in the Carmageddon I days, but what really opened my eyes to just how good the AI really is was an experience I had a few months ago when I was playing the game on the Lewinsky level. Now that is a aircraft carrier, and the race takes place aboard this huge aircraft carrier, and has these different levels on there, different decks. There's a storage deck, I guess, and there's this flight deck, and there's this lift or elevator that goes up and down, I guess to carry the airplanes on a real aircraft carrier. That would be to carry the airplanes from one deck to the other. And of course, the player can drive onto this lift, and he can go up and down himself. Now, someone on the Carmageddon forum said that this lift was controlled by a simple kinematic loop, whatever that means, and that there was no AI involved in it at all, which is totally false. And I'm going to show you, because as you can see, sometimes the lift will go down by itself, sometimes it doesn't. If you drive onto the lift, it will almost always start going up immediately after you drive onto it. Or you can be underneath it. If you're not careful, the lift is going to just suddenly come down on you and crush your car. As you can see here, here's a case where, you know, no one's on top of it, no one's underneath it, but it goes down. But it doesn't always do that. So it depends. It's controlled by the AI. Here you see I'm driving onto it. It immediately starts going down because I drove onto it. But it's not just a simple trigger where you just drive onto it and just that's the only time it goes up or down. And you see, did you see that? There was a little hop there at the end as it went down. A little hop. What was that? So I drive off. I turn around, and it turns out that there was an NPC vehicle underneath the lift, and he got crushed. Let's see that again from a different angle now. There you see he's underneath it. I'm on top. It crushes him, and I drive off. And I'm very careful, of course, to avoid going underneath it, because it just may decide to come back down on me if I'm not careful. And here I go and check out what happened. But the experience I want to tell you about was kind of the reverse of the clip you just saw. I had wasted all of the other opponents in the game in this particular level, and I had just one more to go. So I was wandering around on the lower deck, and I realized that I was underneath the lift. I thought, oh my gosh, I better get going. I'm underneath the lift. It could come down and crush my car. So I start accelerating, but too late. The lift comes down, and it comes right down on top of my car, and it crushes me. But then a very strange thing happened. The message flashed on the screen. Race completed, every opponent wasted. I thought, how could that happen? My car had one opponent left, but my car had just been crushed. How could every opponent have been wasted at the last second there, right when the lift was coming down and crushing my car? So of course, the game has a handy rewind and instant replay feature. So I decided to use that and find out exactly what happened. How could I have lost? How could I have won the game when I got my car crushed at the last second? Well, let me tell you what happened, and it didn't take long, and I didn't have to go far in order to figure out, and in order to see exactly how this whole thing had taken place. What happened was that one of the opponent vehicles was on top of the platform that was coming down, that was about to crush me, but he was turned upside down. He was totally incapacitated in the middle of the platform. And so the platform is coming down, then all of a sudden it pauses. Just for a split second it pauses, and the car on top blows up. I mean, it gets wasted, what's known in the game as being wasted, for no apparent reason. It was totally incapacitated. It just blows up and gets wasted on its own accord. And that's after the platform has paused for a moment. Then the platform finishes coming down, and it crushes my car. And then it flashes the message on the screen, race completed, every opponent wasted. It happened exactly in that order. So it happened just like this. The platform was coming down, it pauses for a split second, and then it comes down the rest of the way. So it's coming down, the car on top gets wasted, and then it comes down and crushes my car. In exactly that order, exactly the right order to allow me to win the game. Now, an unobservant player might have witnessed this in the game, and they may have thought, oh well, it was just a bug, there was no real reason for this to happen. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think this was a clear example of artificial intelligence in the game. It's clear that it wasn't something that the developers had written into the game, because it was kind of nonsensical. I mean, why would the NPC upside down on top of the platform, why would it just blow up like that for no apparent reason? But I think it's nonsensical. We're thinking about it from a human point of view, when really it was, we need to think about this from an AI point of view. And clearly the AI thought that it decided it was time for the player to win this particular game, and it came up with a clever idea, clever way to allow the player to do so. That may not make total sense to the observer watching it, but it made sense to the artificial intelligence. And it's clear that it was an example of true actual intelligence, of true thinking on the part of the AI. So, assuming that the AI did come up with a scheme to allow me to win the game at the very last moment of the game, what traits of human intelligence did it actually show? Well, first of all, it had an intention. It randomly decided that the player should win this time. Secondly, it had foresight. It saw that the player's car was about to be crushed, and it knew that the game was about to end, and the player was going to lose if it didn't take any action. Thirdly, the AI was innovative. It came up with a clever idea, a clever way to allow the player to win by actually pausing the platform and destroying the enemy car before the player was crushed. Fourthly, the AI bent the rules. It did something it doesn't normally do. It paused the platform, something that it had no reason otherwise to do. Finally, the AI was resourceful. It came up with this plan at the very last moment of the game. So this is a form of emergent intelligence, as they call it. It's something that the developers had not actually specifically planned. And so I think this pretty conclusively proves that, yes, computers can think, artificial intelligence in games is real, at least some games, and that it's pretty awesome. So if you like this video, I hope you will do all the things you're supposed to do, subscribe, like, and all other good stuff. And thanks for watching.